Hello viewers, this is James Organizer. Today I'm going to do and deal with the introduction to economics. So in this video I'm going to focus on the foundation, the concepts and economic thinking. So I'm going to have my course outline for the whole entire course. So I'm going to start with defining the word economics for you. I'm going to give the scope and also in other video I'm going to focus on also to tackle on the opportunity cost. Now these others I'll do them in my other coming videos. So I'm sure you've been hearing the word economics in public places, in education sectors and so forth, but today I just want to introduce you to what the word economics really mean in economic terms, and we are going to focus on what economics is interested in. Alright, so let's get started. So what is economics? So economics is a social science, okay? So economics is a social science that studies how individual, businesses, government make decisions on allocating scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. Okay, so this is one of the most interesting definitions. There are a lot of definitions out there, but I like this because it has some of the most key aspects of economics. For example, it is a social science. So economics focuses much on people, individuals, of course, businesses, government. Now, the main interest in these things is to find out on how they make decision on allocating scarce resources. Okay, so under social science also you understand that there are two groups of sciences, which is the social science and natural sciences. So economics is grouped as a social science for the fact that it is interested much in studying individuals, businesses and government. Okay, so economics also uses some models and probabilities in studying individuals, businesses and government. Okay, so that's why we are saying it is a social science. Okay, so it is very important as we approach economics to understand that it is a social science that studies how individuals, businesses and government make decisions about allocating scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. So social science is one of the science where economics also belongs. Not only that, but we are seeing also the most interesting thing, which is scarce resources. So the main idea on why economics studies individuals, businesses and government is to help and come up with informed decisions, okay, on allocating scarce resources. So we want to find out what are scarce resources. What are scarce resources? Because resources are things that are limited in supply as compared to people's wants and needs. So these are basically things that are in other ways difficult to attain to everybody equitably. Okay, so these things, they are short in supply in order to satisfy the unlimited. Now when we say unlimited, there will never be a point where human beings, businesses, government will say no, it's okay, we no longer want more, we no longer need more. That's why we are saying unlimited wants and needs. Okay, so these scarce resources, they are limited in supply to satisfy these wants and needs. Okay, I'm sure we are together over there. So the whole concept for economics is to solve the problem which is known as scarcity. So what is scarcity? As we said in previously, scarcity focuses, or this is a problem which arises due to the resources which are limited. In short, we cannot have everything we want. Hence, we must make choices. Okay, you understand? We cannot have everything that we want. Hence, we have to make choices. So, economics is more interested in making economic decision. So, in every economic decision, it involves choosing among alternative with trade-offs. So we'll be having to choose among the given alternatives by making trade-offs. Okay? So in short, we cannot attain everything, but we can make choices to get what we want by making decisions. And those decisions, they must be made by choosing among the given alternative by utilizing what we call the trade-offs. Trade-off simply means giving out in order to get what we want. Giving out on something in order to get what we want. Also, economics also focuses on incentives. These are just rewards and penalties that motivates behaviors. Okay? So people respond to incentive. Okay? When we understand incentive, we are going to understand economic behaviors. Okay, so we're just saying economics is a social science that studies how individuals, businesses, and government make decisions about allocating scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. Now, I'm just going to deal with some of the scarce resources that you might want to understand and know. So scarce resources, there are a lot of scarce resources, but I'm going to do just a simple introduction so that you understand what we mean when we say scarce resources. So scarce resources, we can have number one, natural resources. Okay, natural resources. So natural resources such as water, okay, such as oil, okay, such as land, such as mineral resources, minerals, okay, minerals also, they are grouped as scarce. So when you look at water, oil, okay, so oil also is grouped as scarce resources. Land, okay, we are fighting issues over land, so it's not everyone who can attain land equitably and easily. Minerals, okay, such as gold, okay, such as copper, diamond, all these, such to mention, they cannot be attained easily. Hence, we are saying choices must be made. But these are not only the scarce resources that we can have. Okay, we can have also resources in terms of human labor. Okay, we can go in short of skilled labor, which is also one of the scarce resources. Now, resources, they cannot just be tangible. We must understand that. We talked of the previous one where we talked of the natural resources, where we talked of water as such and such. But we are saying also time also. Time to do something. Time that we allocate to our chores. Okay? Time that we allocate to execute our duties. It is scarce, hence we must make choices to effectively use our time. Not only that, okay, but we can have scarcity in terms of capital. Now, when I'm talking about capital, it's not always on the money that we use to start up a business. In economics, when we say capital, we are referring to things like money, of course, machines, and also tools that we use to start up a business. So, scarcity in terms of capital, we are referring to money. Okay, money is not easy to attain, hence everybody has to make effective choices in order to have money. Not only that, but we can talk of machines. Okay, machines that we use to start up a business. Tools, they're not easy to attain, hence choices must be made as such and such. Employment also, unemployment also, okay, it leads to unemployment, scarcity, employment, job opportunities. It is one of the scarcity services now. Okay, as I said, scarce resources, they're not just tangible, but we have also intangible one. All right, so this is the basic introduction and the scope that we must understand as we proceed in this course of economics. All right, so now we already said that choices must be made for every economic decision. So it involves choosing among alternatives with the trade-offs. Now, for us to make effective decision, they are one of the concepts that we must understand, and this is what we call opportunity cost. So what is opportunity cost? So opportunity cost, this is the value of the next best alternative that you give up when making a choice. Okay, so this is just the value of the next best alternative, okay, that you give up when making choices. As I introduced earlier, for us to attain what we want, we have to make what? Choices. Let's try to have a real world example here. So a student decides to attend university instead of working full time. So here is a dilemma. Here is the choice alternatives: either to attend university or go working full time. As you can see here, it is a dilemma that needs effective decision, okay, which will involve a student to make an effective decision either to attend university or working full-time job. All right, so I'm not going to go deep into this, but I'm going to introduce something that is known as the production possibility frontier. Now, here shows on how choices can be made in economics. So what is this curve? How do we understand this curve? And what is the whole idea of this? What is the PPF? It is shortened as the PPF. The production possibility frontier, it is shortened as the PPF. So the PPF shows the combination of two goods an economy can produce with the available resources and technology. So this graph or curve will show the combination of two goods. So I'm going to name that as good Y and good X. Okay, the combination of two goods that can be produced in an economy with the available resources and the technology. Now I want you to understand these main points. So we have points on the curve, okay, which I'm going to give as point B to represent all the points along the curve. and point A and point C outside there. It's very important to understand these points as we begin. So we have points that can be inside the curve. So all the points that can be inside the curve, that are being represented by letter A. And we have the points that are along the curve, which can be represented by letter B. And we have the point outside the curve, outside there. Okay? Now, we want to understand what this point implies, or what do they signify to us. Points on the curve. So points on the curve shows efficient production. Okay. So points on the curve shows efficient production. So points on the curve shows efficient production. What does it mean? At this point, we are fully using our resources without wastage, without leaving any other resources unemployed. We are utilizing all our resources effectively, efficiently. Okay? This is the more interesting part of this PPF. We are utilizing all our resources without wastage. But we also have other points, which is point A. Okay? Point A. So this is point B, where we have our resources used effectively. Now we have point A. Point A is the point inside the curve. So we are saying here we are being ineffective, inefficient. Resources are wasted or unemployed. In short, we are not utilizing all our resources to the full capacity. We are leaving out resources unemployed or wasted. So this is a bad point to produce. Okay? But we must always strive to be at this point where we are utilizing all our resources fully and without wastage. Points outside the curve. So these are combinations that we cannot attain. Okay? We cannot attain them because our resources cannot allow us to attain those points. In short, these are known as impossibilities or unattainable. Impossibilities so it is impossible for us to have those combinations because we don't have enough resources to attain those combinations. No. The most important thing that we must understand is the slope of this curve. The slope. So what does the slope signify? So moving along the curve shows the trade-offs between the two goods. Okay, so when we move along the curve, we are showing the trade-offs along the curve within these two given goods. So these goods, I've given them name as Y and X, but as we are going to go in detail in other examples, we'll be seeing here good Y and X represented by anything that we are producing in the given economy. So as we said previously that we can't have it all, so we have to pick one thing and give up another. So if you can see very well, in this given graph we have something that is interesting here, where when we can try to understand how this graph moves, So we'll see as we reduce on the production of good X, we'll see that we'll get more of good Y. The more we get less of good X, the more we are going to attain more of good Y. This is the most interesting part of trade-offs, because we are able to see how this is able to affect the choices that we make. Now we're not going to go into detail in this graph. I'm going to make a separate video just to have an example solved to understand how we get this kind of arrangement by trade-offs. So in this video, we're just doing the basic introduction to economics, but in the other videos we are going to also deal with the two branches of economics, which is micro and macroeconomics. We're also going to talk of the economic system. We're also going to talk of the key concept, and we're also going to deal with the economic thinking. In this video, we're concentrating in understanding what economics is and the scope and also the opportunity cost, of which we said economics is just the social science that studies how individuals, businesses, and government make decisions on how to allocate scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. Okay, so we explained and we defined what scarce resources are, and we gave some examples of scarce resources, of which we gave something like land, mineral resources, oil, okay, and we also came to money, machines, and so forth and so on. And we also introduced the choices that we must make in order to have what we want, which must be attained by trade-offs. And we also discussed a little bit on incentives, of which we said these are just rewards and penalties that motivates human behavior. Now, we cannot understand economic thinking if we don't understand incentives. We also introduced opportunity cost as the value of the next best alternative you give up when making a choice. Now we have the graph, which will help us to make decision and informed decision by visualizing it on the graph, which is known as the PPF, or the production possibility frontier, which is just the graph which shows the combination of two goods an economy can produce with available resources. Now we also talked of these main points that we will have to show how we are producing. So the first point that we talked of is the point inside the curve, and the point along the curve, and also the point outside the curve. And we also talked of the slope, which is the opportunity cost itself. So in the next video, I'm going to do the micro versus macroeconomics. I'm going to differentiate them and also simplify them for you. In this video, thank you so much. Have a good day.